Okay, so Gary Kahn, I think we have a convergence. I asked you a moment ago if there's a single major crisis that could kick in the things you've been talking about for 25 years. I think we've got multiple global crises. Am I wrong there?
No, you are right. Everything that's been taking place in Europe with Greece, that is very significant. And I'll just elaborate a little bit on that. If Greece ultimately were to go under, somebody's going to take the hit. There's no way out of this without somebody taking the hit. Either the banks in Germany and France are going to take a huge hit, and then will affect other Western banks because everything's intertwined these days, or the Greek people are going to have to take a major hit, and then you're going to see a lot of lawlessness and move towards socialism there. Greece possibly getting out of the European Union. Russia is already courting Greece along those lines, promising to provide energy. And so sooner or later, this process of reaching an agreement, you can kick it down the road so far, but then there comes a point where it comes home to roost, and we're right at that point. I will say this. If things fall through in the near future in Greece, this time around, there's going to be collateral that the Germans and the French take from the Greeks. I believe that if the German banks are going to take any kind of a hit, they're not going to do so without getting something in return from Greece, including part ownership perhaps in their utility companies and some of the other major infrastructure organizations. In other words, they would end up owning Greece to a degree. So some trying times coming up. We're not out of the woods yet on that by any stretch. And it'll be interesting to see what emerges in September and October and beyond, both on that front as well as in the Middle East, and also the climate change agenda, which maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But a lot of these things are coming to a head.
Gary and Eric, I want to play off of what you've just said, Gary Kahn, and that's who I'm speaking to for this hour. And you're listening to Understanding the Times Radio. I'm Jan Markell. Eric Barger's in studio with me. I want to play a quick soundbite. This is Pastor J.D. Farag. He is pastor of one of the Calvary chapels in Hawaii, and it's playing off a little bit about what you just talked about, Gary, about the global economies that are crashing. This is just a 2-minute soundbite, and if we have to pick up on the next segment and continue this, we will, but he makes some stunning conclusions building on what you've just said, Gary.
By the way, this might seem like a firm grasp of the obvious, but the reality is the global economies are crashing. They're crashing. Forgive me for saying it this way. We ain't seen nothing yet. We ain't seen nothing yet. And there's a lot of fear. Bloomberg Business, 2 days earlier on Monday, published an article titled, "Good Luck Finding a Place to Hide as Global Markets Crumble." Here's what they had to say. Investors tend to respond to impending doom by selling risky stuff and hiding out in safer assets, namely bonds in places such as Germany and the U.S. There's a problem with that formula this time around. Traders aren't so sure they can find anything that's truly safe right now. You see where this is going? Well, there was this New York Post article the day before that, it was on Sunday, asking this question. Think Greece can't happen here? You're wrong. Most Americans look at the rerun of the Greek euro crisis with something between smug amusement and condescending disapproval. When will those profligate Greeks get their economic house in order and stop looking to others to bail them out? But should people living in a glass economic house really throw stones? After all, just like Greece, the United States government has been living beyond its means, running up an enormous debt that will eventually need to be repaid. One economist suggests that this year, 2015, our debt surpassed the value of the entire United States of America. You know what that means? We're bankrupt. We're bankrupt. We're not that far behind Greece.
Gentlemen, the world is being prepared for the Antichrist. That's all I can conclude here.
Well, if things are brought to the brink of collapse, of course, that means a new system will have to be introduced, and it will set the stage for the Antichrist on the economic front, in the area of world peace, and in other areas as well. And just for the record, right now, the United States has $18.5 trillion of debt. and a group of conservative economists have been saying for a couple of years now they felt that 22 trillion, possibly max 24 trillion, is the point of no return, where literally everyone will know at that point officially it's over. At the current rate, we're approaching that at close to $1 trillion a year, but if there's an economic downturn in the world, it could even speed that up. So at the very least, it's fair to say we've been brought to the brink during the Obama presidency. The problems were actually created long before Obama, but under him, the debt will have doubled by the time his term is over. And so we in the United States now are the largest debtor in the history of the world, by far. There's not even a close second. And so it's amazing. You know, we go to our restaurants every day, we live life as normal, and yet the perfect storm is brewing underneath it all, and very few people are preparing for it, economically, if they even can, but more important, spiritually, because when all of this hits the fan, which it will within the next few years, I guarantee you, unless a miracle happens, it will shake things up in a major way. And like we were talking off the air earlier, between what's going on in the Middle East and the brewing global economic crisis, those two things alone are going to bring about a lot of change in the aftermath, and it's playing right into the world government crowd's hands, world government